asked for readings. Or maybe it was like 2 of them did. The first 2 are fine. And this will happen a lot where it's like people don't know what they want a reading on. And they'll get really caught up in that moment where it's like, I have no fucking clue what I'm supposed to ask. Am I supposed to ask about, like, family or relationships or money? But they're not even thinking like that. They're just, like, racking their brain for anything that could possibly matter to them. And I've seen you do this, but if it's a dumb one, you'll just be like, no. And you'll close it and, like, immediately. It's very funny.
Well, it's funny. Even the people who pay, some of them will have questions, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to answer that. Pick another one. There has to be standards, and this is a problem with the psychic community in general. It's like huge amounts of it.
They call out all of witch talk. Anyone who calls themselves an astrologer, with the exception of like 5 people that we know or we talk about a lot personally, all of you, raise your standards.
They need to be raised because I mean, do you ever hear the song Walter the Occultist? It's very good. I think the guy's name is Paul Roland, I believe. It's like, once there were stars behind his eyes, but now they've dimmed and crystallized. The gods are cruel. They tease the fool who lifts the veil. And it's like, the girls come to visit. They say, will we marry the men from the pier? There's like the romantic, the monetary. These are like the lowest, most vulgar forms of reading. Because, and what I always suggest is like, we'll ask about it in general. Like, or some people will be like, what's my future? And it's like, no, what's my week? What's my month? What's my year? And that's as far as it's worth going. Because at a certain point, it's like, what? You want your whole future? Like I think somebody I'd done it for. And I told them, like, this is a bad card. It's like, you should have asked for a shorter period of time. And you should have asked, what could I change? Instead of, because it's a Macbeth situation. You create a very, very negative feedback loop when you ask the wrong question.
That is, I think, a profound experience of anyone who's actually spent time using a tarot deck, is the feeling of asking the same question, not being happy with the response.
And it's such a childish and immature. Like, there was a period this year when I was very unhappy, and the cards stopped responding. They were like, fuck off, ask better questions. And then once you just start whimsy maxing again, when you stop.
We're almost there, but I had two quick thoughts. One is, the old way to get schizophrenia was through tarot cards. That was like the old way you could do it, is you get into the feedback loop, and it's like an accelerated mimetic, like, think of all these like core archetypes that you would typically be encountering in circumstances where it's like, oh, these stars are in this placement, this is happening in my life at this point, and I'm like now confronting my mother, or I'm confronting like my relationship with my friends, I'm confronting this. But it's like, what tarot can do is it can really like pull all of that up really rapidly. So go ask the same question to your tarot deck 72 times and see what it's going to do to your mind. Back before the internet, that's how you could get schizophrenia. But now, the For You page and all the little algorithms trying to like probe you to stay a bit longer.
The digital tarot deck.
That is
continuously flipping through the cards. One of the things that strikes me though is that I think I agree, but it's rarer. The most common one is more akin to the I Ching. Like, I've known, of the people I've known who've had schizophrenic breaks came from coins. They became obsessive about flipping coins, like Two-Face, like the comic book character. Two-Face flips a coin for every decision, and that is something I've seen people do. And in a comic book, in one of Grant Morrison's comics, in Arkham Asylum, to help Two-Face start to move away from the coin method, they give him a tarot deck. So that he has like all these different, there's so many different options. They mean very different things. He has to kind of interpret. It's much less like, is this person going to live or die?
I think what that gets at is, as the mind opens itself up to so many possibilities, at sort of the edges of the breaking point, you want to ground yourself into like recurring numbers or symbols. So in that instance, it'd be a coin flip. For a lot of people, it's like I keep seeing the same numbers, or it's like I keep seeing the same symbol. It's like the mind will kind of like hone in on one of the core things that's rattling at and kind of what's holding it together.
This is a profound human weakness. This is a human weakness because of the Oedipal upbringing. As Blake says, when the doors of perception are clear, all will be seen as it is, infinite. Things are not limited. But that's what happens, is that, there's a line in the Book of the Law that I think of often, which is, I'm alone here. There is no God where I am. And that is terror, because God is order, numbers, limits. The God that we named, not all of it. All of it is limitless. And so at that place where there is no God, that's when the terror sets in. And you have to make some form of order, no matter how. And that's the problem. The schizophrenic sees reality and is terrified and creates a substitute of order, because they know the Matrix. They've seen past the veil. They've seen past the Matrix. But bro, trust me, my system, formed out of fear and terror, abject terror of the limitless nature of reality, I'm right. And that's what happens.